You know that feeling, right? Like you're just drowning in info, trying to get smart on something, and
Yeah,
fast.
information overload. It's real.
Totally. Well, that's what this deep dive is all about. We're cutting through the noise.
Get into the core of it.
Exactly. Today, we're tackling something super important, maybe a bit overlooked sometimes, legal compliance for tech startups in Hyderabad.
Specifically under the Companies Act 2013. It's critical.
And here's the kicker, right away. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs says over 60%, 60 of Indian startups face penalties for noncompliance.
Wow, that's a huge number. Really underscores why this matters.
Doesn't just... So our main source today is this 2025 guide on Hyderabad tech startup compliance. Looks really solid.
Comprehensive, seems like.
Yeah, for founders, advisors, anyone in that space. And our mission, pretty simple.
Yeah.
Help you stay compliant, skip the penalties, and build a really strong foundation for growth.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
Okay, let's unpack this. Maybe start with the basic framework.
Right, so the foundation for all this is the Companies Act 2013. It's the main legal rule book for companies in India.
Rulebook for everything.
Pretty much. How you incorporate, how you're governed day to day, even how you eventually dissolve. It covers the whole life cycle.
Okay, makes sense. So why do so many tech startups, especially, in a place like Hyderabad, go for the private limited company structure? It seems like the default.
It really is the go-to, and there are some very solid reasons why.
Like what?
Well, first off, limited liability. This is huge for founders. It basically means your personal assets are separate from the company's debts. Less personal risk.
Okay, crucial if you're taking big swings. What else?
It also boosts your credibility. Makes you look more serious, more professional to investors, even clients.
Right, perception matters.
Definitely. And maybe the biggest thing for tech startups, it just makes raising funds and issuing shares like stock options much, much easier. The structure supports growth.
Is there a downside, though? More paperwork, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely more regulatory stuff to deal with compared to just being a sole trader. But for a company aiming to scale, the benefits usually outweigh that complexity.
Gotcha.
And what's interesting, the law actually has this carve-out for smaller players. It's called the small company status, Section 285.
Small company. How small are we talking?
Okay, so the criteria are your paid-up capital needs to be 4 crore rupees or less, and your turnover has to be 40 crore rupees or less.
And if you fit that, what's the advantage?
Big advantages, actually. The filing process is simpler, and the fees you pay to the ROC, that's the Registrar of Companies, are lower. Penalties are reduced too.
Ah, so it eases the burden a bit for the little guys starting out.
Exactly. It's less bureaucratic drag, which means you can put more time and money into, actually building the business. It's kind of a legal leg up.
Right, so let's say you've done it. You're incorporated as a private limited company. What happens, immediately after? Those first few weeks must be pretty intense.
They are. There's a checklist of things you absolutely have to do, and fast. Deadlines are tight.
Okay, hit me with it. What's first?
First, appoint a statutory auditor. You've got just 30 days from incorporation to do this.
30 days. Wow.
Yep. And you have to file Form ADT-1 with the ROC to make it official. This auditor is essential. They sign off on your audited accounts later.
Okay, auditor within 30 days. What's next?
Your first board meeting, also within 30 days of incorporation.
Busy first month.
Definitely. And it's not just having the meeting. You must draft proper minutes and keep them in what are called statutory registers. These are official records.
So meticulous record keeping from day one.
Absolutely critical. Third, you need to maintain proper books of accounts. Section 128 says they have to be kept at your registered office and accurately show your financial position.
Makes sense. Anything else in that initial flurry?
Yeah, a few setup essentials. Getting your PAN, that's your permanent account number, and TAN, tax deduction account number, plus GST registration, if applicable.
Right, the tax stuff.
And opening a current bank account purely in the company's name, not your personal account.
So right out of the gate, it's all about setting up these formal structures and records.
Precisely. You're laying the groundwork for everything that follows. Getting this right avoids so many headaches later.
It really sounds like building the foundation before you put up the walls.
That's a perfect analogy. You wouldn't build a skyscraper on shaky ground, right? Investor confidence, future funding, it all links back to getting these early steps right.
Okay, foundation laid. What about the ongoing rhythm, the annual stuff? Why is that so critical?
Well, this ongoing compliance, the annual cycle, it's basically your track record. Investors, regulators, they look very closely at this stuff.
It shows you're reliable.
Exactly. It shows maturity, good governance. Failure here doesn't just mean fines, although those can hurt. It can delay funding rounds, damage your reputation, even lead to directors being disqualified.
Okay, serious consequences. So what are the main annual filings we're talking about with the ROC?
The key ones are Form AOC-4, which is submitting your financial statements. That's usually due within 30 days after your annual general meeting, or AGM.
Okay, AOT4.
Then there's Form MGT-7. That's your annual return, basically a snapshot of the company's structure, shareholders, directors, due within 60 days of the AGM.
MGT7. Got it.
Directors also have filings. Form DIR-8 is their declaration saying they aren't disqualified from being a director, and Form MBP-1 is where they disclose their interests in other companies or contracts. That's an annual thing.
Right, the director disclosures. And the AGM itself, when does that happen?
Your very first AGM needs to be held within 9 months after your first financial year ends.
9 months, okay.
After that, you need one every year. And the gap between two AGMs can't be more than 15 months.
15 months max gap. Okay, that sounds like a lot to keep track of.
It can be. That's why the source really pushes a practical tip. Use a digital compliance calendar, or better yet, get professional help like a company secretary service. It takes the stress out of remembering deadlines.
Yeah, outsourcing that seems smart for a busy startup.
Definitely. It frees you up to focus on the core business, knowing the compliance side is handled. It's about building that predictable, trustworthy operation.
So we've talked filings, AGMs. What about the board itself? Beyond those annual events, what are the ongoing duties for directors?
It's definitely not just an annual check-in. The board has ongoing responsibilities. For starters, meeting frequency.
Right, you mentioned the first meeting. How often after that?
The law mandates a minimum of 4 board meetings every financial year.
For minimum.
And crucially, the gap between any 2 meetings can't be more than 120 days.
So roughly 1 per quarter.
Pretty much, yeah. Keeps the board engaged. Then there are those mandatory disclosures, like the MBP-1 form. Directors file that annually, but also at their very first board meeting after being appointed.
And they need to keep records of these.
Oh, yes. Maintaining a register of contracts where directors might have an interest and the disclosure forms is vital. And documentation protocols, generally preparing clear board resolutions for decisions, keeping detailed minutes, getting them signed, storing them properly. It needs to be audit-ready at all times.
Sounds like a job in itself.
It can be, which, again, is why the source mentions digital platforms or getting a company secretary involved. Streamlines everything, makes it less of a burden.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We're focusing on Hyderabad. Is there anything unique about the compliance landscape or opportunities there for tech startups?
Yes, absolutely. Hyderabad's ecosystem actually offers some specific advantages if you know where to look.
Like what? Specific perks.
For one, the Telangana government offers subsidies for filing intellectual property IP, patents, trademarks. That can save you real money when protecting your tech.
Oh, that's interesting. IP protection is key.
Definitely. And then you've got great mentorship programs through places like T-Hub and WE-Hub. They often have resources or guidance related to compliance and legal aspects too.
So local support networks.
Right. And the advice is usually, get your trademarks, patents, copyrights registered early. Don't wait. Hyderabad actually has IP facilitation centers set up by the state government to help with this process.
So tapping into those local resources can be a real strategic move.
Absolutely. It's not just about ticking boxes. It's about using the ecosystem to your advantage.
It sounds like being compliant in Hyderabad isn't just about avoiding trouble, but it can actively help you grow, leveraging these local benefits. How does this play into attracting investors?
Plays directly into it. I mean, compliance readiness. It's a massive factor during due diligence. Investors dig into this.
So what specifically are they looking for? What makes them feel confident?
They want to see that your house is in order, basically. Clean records, no hidden issues.
Okay, but what documents are like the absolute must-haves, the things that really signal you've got it together?
Top of the list. Updated ROC filings, those AOC4s and MGT7s we talked about.
Right.
Up-to-date tax filings, too.
Right, the basics.
A verified cap table. That's your capitalization table. Who owns what percentage of the company? It needs to be accurate and clear, along with the overall shareholding structure.
No confusion about ownership. Makes sense.
Exactly. They also want signed board resolutions for any major decisions. Think fundraising approvals, setting up an ESOP, things like that. Proof of decisions.
What about things like IP or contracts?
Absolutely critical. Documentation showing you own your IP, details of any employee stock option plans, ESOPs, signed NDAs, founder agreements. It all needs to be there and organized.
Are there common mistakes startups make here? Things they trip up on during due diligence?
Oh, definitely. Messy records are a big one. Incomplete minutes, unsigned resolutions, confusion over the cap table. It just creates delays and raises red flags for investors.
So what should be in that perfect due diligence data room?
You'd want your incorporation documents, obviously, all your financial statements and the auditor reports, shareholder agreements, board resolutions, all the regulatory filings we mentioned, registers for ESOPs if you have them.
Basically everything neatly organized.
Pretty much. The practical tip here is simple. A well-organized data room builds massive trust. It shows you're professional, detail-oriented, and it seriously speeds up the funding process. It screams low risk.
Right, it shows maturity. Okay, we've covered the what and the why. Let's talk consequences. What actually happens if you just drop the ball on compliance?
Well, the cost of neglect can be really steep. It's not just theoretical.
Like what kind of penalties are we talking?
Okay, common ones. If you're late filing that AOC4 or MGT7, it's a penalty of €100 per day, per form. That adds up fast.
Ouch, per day.
Yep. If you fail to appoint that statutory auditor within the deadline, the company can be fined 1 lakh, and the officers involved, like directors, can face a 25,000 penalty each.
Significant amounts.
And it gets worse. Directors can actually be disqualified under Section 1642 if the company defaults on certain filings for long enough. That prevents them from being a director in any company.
Wow, that's career impacting.
It is. And the source gives a real-world example. A fintech startup in Hyderabad. They got hit with 2.5 lakhs in penalties just for delaying their Form AOC4 filing.
2.5 lakhs.
Yeah. And the knock-on effect, their Series A funding round got postponed because of it. The investors got spooked by the compliance lapse.
Man, this isn't just about paying fines. It can literally derail your funding and growth plans.
Exactly. It throws a major wrench in the works at potentially the worst possible time.
So what's the big takeaway message from the source, wrapping this all up?
The core message is really clear. Startups that build legal compliance into their strategy right from the beginning, they gain huge long-term advantages.
Like what specifically?
Boosted investor confidence, obviously, but also better operational efficiency. Things just run smoother.
Yeah.
Stronger brand credibility overall. Signals you're serious and sustainable.
And the final tips.
Basically, 1, know what your compliance duties are and track them from day 1. 2, keep your financial and legal records immaculate and audit ready, always. And 3, seriously consider investing in legal tech tools or just hiring a company secretary to manage it. Be proactive, not reactive.
Proactive, not reactive. Got it. So we've covered a lot. The rules, the risks, the rewards, especially for Hyderabad startups. It leads to a final thought, doesn't it? In this whole ecosystem that's all about moving fast, breaking things, disrupting, maybe prioritizing something that seems, I don't know, a bit boring, like compliance. Maybe that's the real competitive edge.
Interesting take. The unglamorous foundation.
Yeah, it's like this silent foundation that lets the real innovation happen without getting tripped up by completely avoidable problems. You build resilience.
Less firefighting, more building.
Exactly. So what stands out to you from all this as you're listening? Think about how these ideas, proactive risk management, strategic organization, apply maybe in your own work, even outside startups. These principles are pretty universal.
True. Good governance matters everywhere.
And look, if this all feels like a lot, which, let's be honest, it can, maybe talking to a startup legal advisor, getting some expert guidance, is the smart next step.
Definitely worth considering if you're feeling overwhelmed.
Ultimately, for any tech startup in Hyderabad, or anywhere really aiming for the long haul, the message seems pretty clear. Stay compliant, stay fundable,